It's not so much on getting, but on giving. There's this magical things in life that happens when you're not trying to get, but you're truly trying to give. Like I used to have these long, massive mission statements, change the world. Now my mission statement's really simple, like, how can I help? You know, it's really simple. And I get phone calls every day. Somebody's got somebody with cancer or something else because they have so much health information, or somebody's got to do something in their business to turn around. They got a challenge with their kid, and I've got what I do in my businesses, and it's the most fulfilling thing. But there was a point in my life, early in my career, where I did really well in the beginning, and then I kind of lost my mojo. Anybody ever had a momentum and then lost momentum out there that you can relate to? Make a little noise, you know what I'm talking about? And it got so bad, I was working for Jim Rohn as a speaker, and I was only paid for what I produced, right? So your raise became effective when you were, right? And I started going out, and I was really not succeeding. And I got to a point where literally I had no money. I was broke. I was frustrated. I was overwhelmed and sad and angry with myself and angry with the world. And like, how come I'm working so hard and nothing's coming together? Anybody been in that kind of winter season in your own mind, right? And I was driving home in my 1968 Volkswagen Baja Bug that I bought. And I was driving on this place called the 57 Freeway outside a place called Pomona, California. It was not a nice place at that time. And all of a sudden, and this is like near midnight, I pulled to the side of the road, and I was so emotional. I had pulled out these journals. I still keep these physical journals, hardbound journals. And I wrote on one page, "The secret to living is giving." I still have the journal. And I just started, I was on the side of the freeway. I pulled over to write this. I just started crying like crazy, and I just realized, you know, when I started out, it was all about what am I here to give, and now I'm focused on what I'm not getting. And if you do that in a relationship, your relationship's going to be screwed over. Relationship's a place to go to give. It's not a place to get and measure. If you're measuring, it's a money trade. It's an exchange. It's not a gift. And I realized I need to get back to the gift. And it really shifted me. And so for about, 4 or 5 months, I created a new momentum. And then, you know, when you're new in business, you make some mistakes. I made some silly mistakes. And all of a sudden, here I was, broke again. I moved into this little place in Venice, a little 400 square bachelor apartment. There was no kitchen. I was washing my dishes making my food on a hot plate on the trash can and washing my dishes literally in the bathtub and feeling sorry for myself every day. And I had no money. I was running out of money. I didn't do drugs and alcohol because when I was growing up, those that did drugs and alcohol really tried to harm me, so I never was connected to that. But I used food like a drug. And I gained 38 pounds in less than 2 months. That's not easy to do. You have to stuff your face and not move very much. That's what it takes to do that. And I got to a day, and I was watching Luke and Laura on a program called General Hospital, which is one of those stupid daytime, soap operas. Anybody know what I'm talking about there? I used to make fun of people. Do that. And I was there, Luke and Laura. I was there for the wedding. I was there for Scorpio. I was the whole thing, right?
Oh my goodness.
Stuff in my face, fat, feeling like crap. And I got to a day where I didn't have any money left. When I said any money left, I probably had $21 and some change. 22, something like that. I'd not paid my rent. I'd gotten my eviction notice. And I had 3 days to get things done. I didn't know what to do. I was hiding out because I had so many bill collectors. I wouldn't answer the phone. And I just was at the lowest point I can remember being. And I finally came up with a plan. Like, I literally have no money left. What am I going to do for the next few weeks? And so I decided, my brilliant plan, I'll go to an all-you-can-eat salad bar and just load up for the winter. And so there was a place, I lived in Venice, but the next city over is really beautiful. It's called Marina del Rey, and it's on the ocean there. And there was an El Chorrito restaurant, a little Mexican restaurant, where they had an all-you-can-eat salad bar, but it had burritos and carbs. And I was like, I'll go there. I'll look out the windows where all these yachts are going by and see and I'll dream of another life, and I'll stuff my face, and maybe that'll last a few days. And then I didn't take my car because, to pay for parking would take what little money I had, like another $3 or $4. So I decided to walk. It was only about 2.5 miles. And I got to the place, and it was beautiful. I mean, beautiful. Looking at these boats, and it's gorgeous. And I went to the salad bar, and man, I just loaded up like crazy. I went back for seconds. I mean, I was so bloated, and I was like, okay, this is going to last me a couple of days. And while I'm finishing my second portion of the meal, my seat was sitting out looking out at the water, and then just to the left of me in the distance was the front door to the restaurant. And as I'm eating, look at this thing, the door opens and something caught my eye, and it was this incredibly beautiful woman. I couldn't help but look. I was a single man. And then I immediately looked. She was so amazingly beautiful, and I was like, I immediately looked as a man with her, as if I had any chance with where I was in my life. It was ridiculous, right? But she did have a man with her, and he was about that tall. And he was wearing a three-piece little button-down suit with his little vest. And I noticed this young man held the door open for her, and then he pulled out the chair for her. And then when they were talking, he was sitting looking into her eyes. I mean, he was like so present with her. And I don't know what it was. Maybe it was because my mom and I were estranged. She kicked my dad out, and she'd kicked me out. But I got really emotional just seeing this beautiful boy, so loving with his mom and so respectful and supportive. And so I went and I paid the bill. I think it was like $5.95, like $6 for all I ate. And I put the rest of the money, all I had in the world, in my pocket. And then I was on my way out the door, and something, I had no plan. I just spontaneously, I stopped, and I introduced myself to this little boy. I said, "Hi, I'm Tony." He reached out my hand. "I'm Charlie." I said, "Charlie, I just got to tell you, you're a class act. I saw how you held the door open for your lady, how you held the chair for her, how you're right here with her when you guys are talking. It's just like you're not distracted. I mean, that is really awesome. And then take her to lunch like this." He goes, "Well, she's my mom."
Aww.
And I said, "Well, that's even more classy."
Yeah.
And then he goes, "But I'm not taking her to lunch because I don't have a job," because I think he was 10 or 11. I think he was 10. And he goes, "I'm just 10. I don't have a job yet. I'm not taking her to lunch." And I had no plan. I just instantly, without thinking, I reached in my pocket. I took all the money I literally had in the world. I don't know, it was $18, $19 and some change, whatever's left, $17. And I just dumped it on the table in front of him. The dollar bills, the change, everything right there.
Oh.
And his eyes got bigger than garbage can covers like this. And he goes, "I can't take that." I said, "Sure you can." He said, "How come?" I said, "Because I'm bigger than you are." Right? And he laughed, and I laughed. I didn't look at the woman. I wasn't doing it for that reason. And I went out the door, and I felt like I was flying. And I looked for my car, and I realized there's no car. So now I'm this funny-looking white guy that was kind of I was so happy. I was like skipping down the street. I looked like a total dork, but I didn't care. I was on cloud 9.
I bet.
And check this out. I just gave away every penny I have with no understanding where my next meal's going to come from, much less my next dollar. And I'm about to be evicted. And I've been living in scarcity, living in fear the whole time. And there was no fear in my body at all. There was only joy and ecstasy. And I went home that night, and there was no plan for the next day, like how I'm going to eat, what I'm going to do. And I woke up the next day and realized I got to figure this out. And then I got the snail mail. In those days, there was no such thing as email. And, of course, I was avoiding it all because it was all bills. And then there's this one card there, a little open envelope. And I opened it up because it was handwritten, and I didn't recognize the writing. Didn't look like a bill. And I opened up, and I started to cry because in this was a note. There was a young man that I loaned $1,000 to 3 years previously. $1,000 is a ton of money for me. But I knew he needed it, and so I loaned it to him. He was supposed to pay me back within 6 months or a year, and for the last 3 months, I'd been calling him like every other day. Not one phone call back. I needed it to survive. And the note said, "I'm really sorry. I've been avoiding you. You were there for me when I needed it most. I'm embarrassed, but I got the money back together. I hope you'll forgive me. Here's not only the money, but a little bit of interest." And he gave me a check for $1,200.
Wow.
$1,200 was enough for me to live for a month at that point. And I just sat there reading this note, knowing I don't have to worry about how I'm going to eat, where the food's going to come from. I just started to cry and cry and cry. I might feel it right now like I was there back then. That's how vivid it is for me still. And I thought to myself, why am I crying? You know, this is beautiful. And then I realized in that moment, it's like, why did this happen? And I don't know for sure, but the meaning I gave it was because I did the right thing. Because when I had nothing, when I was most fearful, when I thought there was nothing that could turn me around, I did instinctively what was right. I didn't do it for stars on my chart. I didn't do it so this woman would be positive towards me. I just did it because I knew it was right. And in that moment, I experienced something I'd never had in my entire life. No more scarcity. I didn't have any money, but I was no more scarcity. $1,200, I felt like I was rich. But the most important richness was, it's like, okay, I'm guided. I will for the rest of my life, whatever it takes, no matter how hard it is, I'll do what I believe is right in my gut. And I won't live in a place of fear. And I have to tell you, I've lived a full life, and I've had plenty of ups and downs. I've had times that looked like the company I had was going to go bankrupt, and I managed to pull it off and not go bankrupt. But no matter how bad it's ever gotten, I've never gone back to that place of scarcity. And so I invite you, my friends. I invite you. You don't get beyond scarcity. You decide to be beyond it. You take some action. And you give more than you expect to receive. If you give more than you expect to receive, you'll build a brand in life. A brand with friends, a brand with family, a brand with the community, a brand with your business. And once you have a brand, people will seek you out and they'll know who you are. Not by your words. You don't have to judge me by my words. Watch how my feet and body have moved for 48 years. That's who I am. And I had a friend of mine, Mike Keys, who went with me to Jim Rohn. We met each other there more than 45 years ago. We both became two of the more successful people. Jim would always talk about us in his seminars. And one day, my buddy Mike just recently was on a plane, and someone was sitting beside him reading Life Force, my book. I interviewed 150 of the regenerative doctors, and the person was underlining it, marking it all up, and he loves seeing people like that. They don't know he knows me, right? And so he says, hey, what do you think of that book? And the person said, well, God, it's incredible, stem cells, and went on and on. And he goes, what do you think of the author? He said, he seems like a really good man, and he donated all these books to feed people, all his money, and obviously more than that. The books wouldn't cover it. And then he said, but of course, he's rich, so it's probably easy for him. And my buddy Mike smiled from ear to ear and said, really? He said, what if I told you I've known him for more than 45 years? I remember when he had $20 to his name, and there was a boy we were going to pass that was hungry, and he gave him half the money. He gave him $10 and kept 10 for himself. And when I asked him about him, he asked me back then, he goes, what are you doing? And I remember saying to him, if I don't give a dime out of $1, I'm never going to give 100,000 out of $1 million or 100 million out of $1 billion.
Right.
The time to give is now. You want to accelerate your path? Give. If you will do that, I promise you, your wildest dreams, they'll look like cartoons compared to the life you will really live. So I invite you on this path of life. Take those massive actions. Don't hold back. If you can't, you must. And give. Give more than you ever thought you had inside, and you'll discover that you're more than you think you are. You'll experience the joy that you really deserve. And I hope that during these 3 days, you felt the heartfelt love we have for you. Even though I don't know you personally, this is my calling. And I'm trying to pour everything I could into these few hours we could spend together, so that hopefully it not just inspires you, but offers you a pathway to navigate from your old story to new, from your old identity to the new, to the breakthroughs that you deserve. And I know there's one thing missing for many of you, most of you, and that is you understand this now. Now you got to lock it in your body. And that's the conditioning process. So I hope you'll come and join me for Unleash the Power Within. I'm not here to pitch you in any way, shape, or form. I don't have to work out, do any of this, but I swear to you, if you will invest in yourself just a little bit for 4 days, 12 hours a day, 4 days, life will never be the same again. And I just want to thank you for the gift of being able to serve you. I hope you felt like you've gotten some real benefits in this event. Have you?